Just take it down.
Every living Lego.
So,
Listen to the Smooth Breakfast.
right.
Every weekday from 6 a.m.
Only on Smooth.
Have this experience in university, especially some of them
Feel
elective
Good
courses,
Friday.
like non-law courses.
No, it's
where-
not Friday.
Good
I can't be bothered to
music
reschedule
on
shit.
Smooth
Right.
Breakfast.
We'll just wing it.
This is how you come and freestyle.
I'm telling you.
The Smooth Breakfast presents the headlines, the stories, the news, in-depth analysis of national current affairs.
Mics are going up.
Freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1.
A very good morning to you, and thanks for staying with us on Smooth Breakfast with Rotus and myself, Valentine. It's time for us to go into detail on the headlines on our national papers and newspapers. We're joined by wonderful guests in the studio with us. Devoe Okorie, who just stepped into the studio now. Hi, Devoe.
Good morning, Lagos.
Good morning.
A cool second tenure.
Well done. And Ikemesit, good morning.
Good morning. Morning, Lagos.
Good to have you in. And Kema Smith 01. Good
Oh
morning.
yes. Lagos, good morning.
Good morning to you. And of course, we're going to be going into the papers very quickly, but Lagos, please join us as we stream live on YouTube. Just type in the search box Smooth 91 FM Lagos to join the live stream. And plus, if you miss any detail, it's always available on that handle. Plus, on Twitter, the hashtag is freshlypressed981. We'll be tweeting the WhatsApp number on our Twitter handle, the same one at Smooth91FM on Twitter, so you can interact with us based on the stories.
All right. Kicking things off from ThisDay, Buhari seeks confirmation of MPC members. President Buhari has written to the Senate seeking confirmation of 23 members of the National Population Commission, one National Commission of the Independent National Electoral Commission, that's INEC, and 2 members of the Federal Judicial Service Commission. The separate letters seeking confirmation of the 26 nominees were read at plenary by Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki. So, Kema, I believe we're coming to you with this story. How do you see it?
Well, when I saw the headlines, Buhari seeks confirmation of NPC members. I mean, I said, what's the harm in that? It's probably constitutional. And I went a bit further and I said, let's even find out how many of these commissioners there are. And I found out there were 23 commissioners he was swearing in. Now, mind you, these are not the entire commissioners. The National Population Commission has 37 commissioners. Now, first of all, this is a poorly funded NPC. Our last census was done in 2005, and this should be done every decade, every 10 years. So the next one should have been 2015. And they've been complaining every year. They submit budget proposals to the National Assembly, and it is never approved. It hasn't been captured in these new budgets. I know they have brought up a budget of 272 billion naira, and they've sent it to the National Assembly, but the National Assembly has not approved it. This parastatal is poorly funded, like so many other parastatals we have in Nigeria. However, they have commissioners, 37 of them, and these commissioners all have police details, they all have PAs, they all have, and you just wonder what exactly is wrong with your country. Like really, this is the same National Population Commission. I have so many people, I know so many people there. The entry level salary is one of the poorest you can ever think of, lower than 50,000 naira.
Wow.
Complete plus allowance plus everything, and then you're having 37 commissioners for what exactly? Is it politics or is it federal character? Then we come back to the federal character argument again, where you're sacrificing competence on the altar of geographical representation. There's so many things wrong with every time with all this with our sense of appointments in Nigeria. There's just something defective that we should listen to. We must look at this, because we can't continue like this.
It is something that needs to be looked at. All right, so still on our president, this is now from the Punch. Buhari's alleged promise to serve one term is a misquote, says Adesina. Presidential spokesman Femi Adesina has described, quote, as a misquote, a reminder that President Buhari had pledged to serve for only one term, with a promise to never seek re-election. So, Devoe, a misquote?
Well,
Give us the details, because he says that, and then he went into a few,
yeah, he did lay
Yeah.
a position.
right?
And for the first time, the paper Punch reported President Buhari, 75, had shortly left for London. I'm wondering why they're mentioning his age in this instance. Punch, you need to stop being,
But his age now.
Now, some people are trying to get at them by saying that, but you said you would never run again. Well, Adesina saying in both instances, he was there, the first one in South Africa, when he said he wished he had gotten the presidency. As of the time he was a military governor, he would have had more strength to do much more. And that his age is upon him, obviously, implying that he couldn't do as much as he could given his age. Secondly, it happened in 2011, and he said he did say that, but he lost, so it's not applicable when he did run in 2015 and win. Well, the other issues tied here were because it was during an interview via Skype that they mentioned the vote of no confidence by the Northern Elders Forum and the Council for Sharia. He said, well, all entities are entitled to vote for whoever they wish for. Secondly, they asked about the most glaring issue, which is, as I said again, they quoted his age. The medical side. Is he strong enough? Is he going to be stable enough to see it through the next 4 years? He said, well, the president, our president, is a very responsible man, and that if the doctors had given him a warning, he would have heeded to it, which there is none.
Okay, but wait, let's just, Lagos, I hope you guys are paying attention to this. I want to see if it makes sense to you. In 2011, he said that if he would only serve one term if he won, but he ended up losing the election, so that no longer applies. And then 4 years later, he's older in 2015, and the quote no longer applies. So are you does that make sense to
He
you?
has
the same
agreed,
thing
he said it's a
in
misquote.
2015.
So,
No, but he said in 2011 that he lost the election, so it didn't apply.
yes.
Right. So,
So
okay.
he said it's a misquote.
Okay.
As again, if you don't accept it, you
Right.
also have the full inalienable right not to vote for him on the basis of
On the basis of that. Kema, let's move on to issues of power and the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. The headline here from ThisDay: NERC queries World Bank's $112 million guarantee on gas sale agreement for Calabar plant. The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission has written to the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osibanjo, to express its worries about the gas sale agreement between the Niger Delta Power Holding Company signed with a private gas firm, AccuGas Limited, for the supply of gas to its 562 megawatt Calabar power plant, and which the World Bank guaranteed after initially refusing to. Kema, what's their problem? What are they worried about?
Yes, this is quite an interesting story for me because, first of all, now you guys just follow this. Now, first of all, the Niger Delta Power Holding Company applied for the guarantee from the World Bank. As they applied, the World Bank denied it. After that, the Niger Delta Power Holding Company came back. Now, we don't know, where they made their internal decisions from, but they now partnered with AccuGas Limited and said, okay, come, you guys have the capacity, because Niger Delta Power Holding Company they were having lots of financial challenges, so they partnered with AccuGas Limited and they won the bid. They got the World Bank guarantee. So all of a sudden, the NERC is called the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission is coming out to say, hey, you applied the first time, they turned you down. All of a sudden, you had a deal with somebody and then they granted it to you. So no, we're going to query it. Now, from this whole thing I just have, just two questions. The first is, will this agreement give us better power supply? That's the first one.
Well, it's a 562 megawatt plant, so I guess you guys can do the math on that.
It's
just 562.
562.
So,
and then the second is, we know that there's been a gas challenge, gas supply challenge in the sector. There's always been the supply of gas issue, and now these people are coming up to bring a solution. My question again is this: NERC, they are the regulators here. Is this a good deal or a bad deal? There's nothing here that suggests that it's a bad deal. The only thing that comes up as a first question is that the World Bank, through its subsidiary, owns shares in the AccuGas Limited that that partnered with the Niger Delta. So it's quite tricky. World Bank owns shares and then they approve the contract to the company that owns shares. It's like an ethical issue. But then we come back to the main question is, these are investors. These are people who want to better your economy. These are people who are bringing in, they're not even bringing in cash. They're just guaranteeing a gas supply agreement such that our gas is sourced in dollars.
Yes,
and we're having an FX challenge. So when you don't have that FX, we've guaranteed this thing. So don't worry, just keep supplying. Let the supply of gas keep flowing. And if you ask me, this is something every gas supply company should enter into.
All right. We have messages in from WhatsApp. MI from Akoka sends this one. He says, unfortunately, we'll not be able to quantify what we're losing by not doing the needful with the NPC. We cannot even plan for anything. Eku misquote. Thank you very much. He sends, Benga sends this one. There is no point sulking and getting aggrieved over the declaration of PMB because there are other aspirants like Showole, Mogalu, Donald Duke, Atiku, all interested in the presidency come 2019. Pitch your tent with any of these aspirants. The fixation and attack on Buhari over his declaration is absolutely unnecessary. Here's a question in from Prince. It says, did you guys see Minister of Finance rebuttal on the story about lawyers' fee on Abacha recovery you guys took yesterday? Well, they said yes, so we'll move on to the next story.
That is the next story. Well, perfect timing, Prince. The next story from The Guardian. Federal government receives 322 million Abacha loot from Switzerland. I believe Kema is going to be taking us through this story. The federal government has announced receipt of $322 million from the Swiss government as part of the looted funds recovered from the late former head of state, General Sani Abacha. Of course, this from Special Advisor Media and Communications to the Minister of Finance, Oluyinka Akintunde, disclosed this in a statement in Abuja. Akintunde said there was no controversy surrounding the recovery of the stolen funds from the Swiss government. Real quick quote, the Minister of Finance, Mrs. Kema disassociates herself and the Federal Ministry of Finance from recent reports on the Abacha looted funds. The minister had at no time written any letter to the president or any member of the Federal Executive Council on the payment of lawyers for the Abacha recovery. Kema,
Yes. First of all, I would like to start. My brother Devoe, I have a prayer for you. May your blessings keep pouring in like the Abacha loot.
Lagos, please help me say amen.
Send amen.
Why didn't I get a prayer though?
Oh, you also want? May your blessings never stop
beyond
pouring
the sarcasm, what's
because the Abacha loot just never stops pouring in. Every government has recovered an Abacha. The next government will probably still recover an Abacha loot.
The man chop.
It just makes you wonder the extent these presidents, dry our coffers. And this is the only president we've had who passed on while in office, and then we've recovered so much from him. Which
is probably why it's so convenient that we're recovering.
Yes, that's why it's so convenient. So one only wonders what has happened with the other presidents.
The living ones.
The living ones.
This is Kema's opinion. Let's just point that out. Let's just point that out. All right, go ahead.
Touch a nerve.
And Kema says as well.
Keep it moving now.
But then again, the only sad part about this story is that they don't want to pay my fellow lawyer here.
Yes.
And I'm wondering why. And the money we're looking at here is $16 million.
Yes.
This could change this man's life. And you don't want to see. Look.
Two guys actually.
Yeah, two lawyers. Two lawyers.
We'll understand that there are procedures governing.
No, they're saying they won't
funds.
pay at all. They're even dissociating themselves from the story. Meanwhile, these are most times are usually informal arrangements. Okay, help us get this money out, because mind you, before now the Swiss government was already saying it's not informal, it's semi-formal, because there's really it's not tied to the condition for the release of these funds.
Okay.
So it's a different arrangement, of course, usually in writing.
So in essence, the government really has no liability to that.
No,
it cannot be held liable for not releasing the funds.
The government,
because of the touchy political nature of
the
government will have to slug it out with those two lawyers, and this might take time.
Well, but just to be clear though, what we reported the day before was that the Minister of Finance wrote a letter stating that the money should not be paid to those lawyers. So if she's not coming out to say that that letter is false, that she never wrote such a letter, that means that the payments in effect should go through to the lawyers, right? In theory, yes. But then, of course, there's also the issue of one set of they had been working with one lawyer from Switzerland for I can't remember, Miko Filioni or something like that, and then these now two lawyers now ended up popping up, and so that's where the discrepancy is.
Themselves out, but they should pay them.
Right. Okay.
All right, so we have this message from Osita Chibike here on WhatsApp. It says the most important thing is INEC conducting free and fair elections in 2019, not Buhari's declaration. If election is free and fair, it does not matter his declaration. Nigerians will make their choices. Thank you very much. Keep your messages coming in. The hashtag on Twitter is freshlypressed981. Okonkwo Samuel on Twitter says, we probably believe it then. In 2011, he said he wanted only one term in office. But guys, do you really expect Winnie the Pooh of Nigerian descent to abandon an enticing Honeywell? All right, Okonkwo Samuel, you're entitled to your opinion. All right. So the handle on YouTube is at Smooth91FM Lagos. Please follow us there so you can watch live the analysis. Next story is from The Guardian. Ex-Governor Ibrahim Shema pleads not guilty to 24 counts charges. He's been arraigned in court by the EFCC, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. He's a lawyer, politician, who was elected first in 2007. As the governor of Katsina State, re-elected again for a second term in 2011 under the flag of PDP. The AFCC instituted charges against him that, amongst other things, included criminal breach of trust, fraud, conspiracy, and forgery. In this same story, the federal government rearranged Nanle Dariye, the son of former Plateau State Governor Joshua Dariye, before Federal High Court of Abuja for alleged money laundering. With all these stories surrounding the amounts, even some of it amounting to 1.5 billion naira that's leveled against Dariye's son, and the Katsina State government is embroiled in the EFCC charges of corruption. What's your take, really?
Well, the truth is, it's the ongoing war on corruption. Many have asked and requested for some evidence as to the progress. Here we have the story counts on 2 of the cases of the past administration. One, Katsina State, which was tied to misappropriation of funds with the LGA appropriation. That's to the tune of 1 billion on a 24 count charge. That was the governor plus I think 3 other people.
So the amount actually amounted to about 11 billion naira.
Sorry,
that's what Katsina State governor.
My error. 11 billion.
Yes.
While for Plateau State, it's the governor's son on a 6 count charge at 1.5 billion for what was suspected to be money laundering. That's what the FCC took him up for, that he had a hotel, which was a director, received about 1.5 million from a bank, which was not reported above the 10 million naira threshold, and also that hotel was also not registered. Now, on both sides, both in the Katsina State issue and the Plateau State, they did plead not guilty. Well, what I would raise is we have been looking at the quality of the prosecution. That's the EFCC and every other body that takes these alleged criminals to court. Maybe does the government need to improve on this? Because we seem to always have an adjournment or continuation. Though I hear the act for the Prosecution of Justice Act or something like that has just been enacted, and that we will soon see the fruits of it. Well, we're looking forward because it has really taken a long length of time, and
I guess we look towards April 27th.
Currently, with all these amounts in quotes, it seems that the government forte seems to be from a point of restitution rather than prosecution. So I don't know. I have 2 lawyers with me, 2 learned fellas. Do they prefer the restitution or the prosecution?
All right, so we'll move on from that now. Another story from The Punch. We have this one in. It says, Bribe, police arrest, detain 5 SARS operatives in Lagos. Yesterday, the story broke. We heard about a Lagos businessman who was cornered at the Zenith Bank branch at the Shango-Tedo area. Agor Palace Way in Okota. He was, besieged by the 5 operatives of SARS, and he was asked to first his phone was taken from him, and then they had negotiations. The guy approached him in Mufti. He asked for an identification. He showed him his ID card. He said he was a SARS operative, and he asked him several questions that included him explaining himself why he was there. He said his office was in Ikoyi. He says, so what are you doing in Okota withdrawing money? He says, because I leave my house, I have to make this transaction before I get to the office. Cut a long story short, this guy found a way to get his phone back and said he needed his phone to get the money out, got into the toilet and sent a Facebook post. And that's how we got this news.
Yeah, exactly. And this was after, of course, they made him drive all the way to his office in Ikoyi. Yeah. So the interesting thing is this, right? The word eventually got out. The police arrested these guys. They're said to be 5, 2 inspectors and 3 sergeants. They are attached to the Ipakodo base of of the SARS squad and not the Ikeja unit, as earlier reported. It's worth noting that this story is actually a follow-up from a story that Punch had reported earlier.
Yes.
Right. So, but the interesting thing is this, and I'll make a direct quote from the report. The cops who are alleged to have demanded money from him, even as they turned down a telephone call from the police command headquarters, and I can just my cynical hat on, I can guarantee you that the arrest happened, this story got out, it's in the press, and we're talking about it now on Freshly Pressed because this guy, this businessman, apparently is a well-moneyed, well-connected person, right? But
because he had the contact of the police bureau,
exactly, you know, and all of that stuff. But for millions of Lagosians, and I've had to spend time in 2 police stations, 2 different police units over the course of the last 5 days. Hierarchy
because at
for
the time,
dealing with these things.
we thought
it's still a significant issue.
The SARS excesses were curbed at the time. It so happens it's actually still continuing.
Yeah, it is still continuing. There was just this time when social media blew up and they were under the spotlight, through the entire rigmarole of blackmailing us or labeling us as unpatriotic for actually speaking out on these things. And you know, everybody has gone back into trying to hustle and trying to make, you know, their daily bread. And SARS apparently has also gone back to their hustle and trying to make their daily bread.
But wait, just in the interest of fairness, yeah, and you know, I know we SARS gets demonized, but again, I just hope we're looking at this critically. The Punch says that he just went to the bank to make a withdrawal and he was approached by them. I mean, this is a district, it's a bank, people go in and out.
Yes.
For some reason, they just picked him out of all the other people that go in there and just asked him to come to their car. I mean, isn't there more detail that we should probably be asking for about this story?
They don't necessarily round up a group of people.
Okay. So probably as geographical context, I know we're constrained for time. Agor, Festac, you know, that entire area, Kota, they're sort of contiguous. And if you live in that area and you're listening to Freshly Press right now, light bulbs will go up by what I'm about to say. I suppose that's an issue which a lot of us would like to see addressed, but from a lot of people, a directive to that effect. Let's face it, especially when it comes to the governors. I mean, for a lot of the other VVIPs, I can understand, but when it comes to the state governors, I think when you consider the chief of army staff and the state governors in order of priorities in terms of influence, there's only going to be one winner.
But the military,
so this is good for the optics.
Yes.
This is good for the optics, and it might seem in theory that the military might be able to enforce this because it's a more structured, a more hierarchical, a supposedly more disciplined organization. But come on. This is the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It's not going to happen, especially with the kinds of elections we're going to have in 2019.
Let's see how that cynicism plays out, though. Godwin here on WhatsApp says, why won't Abacha loot keep flowing? The wife once said, no matter how much is recovered, they will never be as poor as Dangote.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
Okay.
How dig up for such
What
history.
she has invested in Niger.
Boy.
So, you know.
All right, so next story. We heard the story yesterday. For some reason, I don't know if we treated it, but it was the last story on the array of stories we looked at Freshly Pressed. Now, today it's come up in a development. Randy lecturer in OAU. The university has come out to probe the sex for Mark allegation. So this is from New Telegraph. A lecturer by the name of Professor Richard Akindele has been exposed. Is in the department that is actually he happens to be in the Faculty of Administration at Accounting Department. The story was posted on social media with the audio clip of a female student who he asked to sleep with him 5 times for him to upgrade her score. Let's go into the story. Devoe.
Solicitation at its best. Some call it prostitution. This time it's a man prostituting himself. Well, you know, most times it's nice to talk about these things. It comes as gist, it comes as rumor. We laugh about it. In this case, hard evidence has been brought forward. The university has finally taken it up. They said they've heard about the allegation and they're going to look into it within the next 72 hours to unravel the veracity. Although they've denied the evidence of the audio tape, they've said they're not aware of the recording.
That's not necessarily denying it. It's just saying that they would find out if it's legit.
Yeah.
It's very glaring.
Yes, I'm about going there. I'm about going there. Did mention that he has heard it himself, but it's not enough to confirm whether that was the lecturer or the student in quotes. Now, as much as all of us have heard this, because the report actually gives a transcript of the negotiation. If you look at it,
was
at
a
the end of the
full-on
day,
negotiation.
the only reason why she turned it down was it
was a 5-week stretch. Anyway.
Well, she couldn't take it and she turned it down. Now, the truth is, what are we going to do? I'm looking forward to the Me Too campaign in Nigeria, because we must commend this girl for taking the initiative to record this conversation and let it out, because so many of our female mothers, sisters, cousins nephews have been subject to a patriarchal, man-dominated society, misogynist society.
Were stolen from the Federation accounts revenue stream. The consultant the exam expectedly they make advances in monetary inducements to the lecturers in order to pass. Why into law? He called it
by state government, but actually, there's in Lagos is a
we'll
fine.
try to find out. By the way, we
But
have
cross